Welcome to the sleepy atom. Tonight we drift into the quiet side of our solar system, where something enormous, distant, and stormy has been silently guarding our little planet for billions of years. Its name is Jupiter, but it's more than just the biggest planet. It's Earth's unsung protector. You see, while we sleep under calm skies, there's chaos swirling in the dark. Icy comets, rogue asteroids, ancient space debris, and something out there is constantly intercepting those threats before they reach us. That something is Jupiter, but Jupiter doesn't shout about it. It doesn't glow like the sun or sparkle like Venus. It simply pulls, bends, absorbs, deflects. Its gravity acts like a cosmic shield, so massive and mysterious, we're still uncovering how deep its protection really goes. So tonight, let's float gently through the stars, not in fear, but in quiet awe. We'll trace the soft, unseen threads between Jupiter and Earth and find out just how close we've come, over and over again, to being struck by space's darker intentions. But we weren't, because something massive was always standing between us and disaster. Let's begin with a gentle thought. The silent guardian in the night sky. Jupiter doesn't flicker like a star. It holds, firm bright, ancient. When you look up and spot it, sometimes low on the horizon, glowing faintly orange, it doesn't beg for attention, but it has been watching, not like a myth or a god, but like a presence, one that's always been there, bigger than all the other planets combined, heavier, stronger, wiser in some silent, invisible way. It hasn't just been spinning out there for fun, it's been doing something. Have you ever wondered how many things could have gone wrong for Earth? The asteroids that never hit, the comets that never arrived, the near misses we never even knew about. Jupiter was there for those. Its presence bends the rules out there, slows objects, pulls them off course, even eats them whole. And it does all this without ever asking for thanks. It just does it, as if that was always the plan. So the next time you look up and you see that steady dot sitting quietly in the sky, you'll know. That dot has been shielding your life since before your ancestors were born. Why Jupiter has always been watching. Before Earth had oceans, before life sparked in the mud, Jupiter had already claimed its place. Far out, cold and swirling, it began pulling the pieces of the early solar system into a kind of balance. While the inner planets were still young and restless, Jupiter had already grown into a heavyweight champion. It was the one forming early, fast, wide, and its gravity started changing everything around it. It didn't need to touch anything to make a difference. With just its size, it slowed down certain asteroids, shifted others away from Earth's orbit, and created safe pathways in space like carved channels in a river. Some scientists call it the solar system's vacuum cleaner, others call it a gatekeeper, but it's more like a gentle giant at the edge of a busy street, calmly redirecting traffic before anything goes wrong. And it's always been doing this, since before we even had names for planets, before there were calendars or clocks. While Earth was still figuring itself out, Jupiter was already watching, a planet too big to ignore. Jupiter is so massive it doesn't even orbit the Sun like the other planets. The Sun and Jupiter actually orbit a shared point, just outside the Sun's surface. That's how big it is. It holds more than twice the mass of all the other planets combined. If it were any bigger, it might have turned into a star. And yet, it didn't. Instead, it became something else entirely, a gravitational maestro. Because of that bulk, anything that gets near Jupiter doesn't just float past. It gets tugged, twisted, flung, or captured. Some things end up crashing into it. Others get shot out into space, but fewer and fewer get near Earth because of it. And still, it makes no sound. It doesn't flash when it protects us. It doesn't warn us. It just takes the hit, again and again. And because of that, Earth remains mostly untouched. So when we say it's too big to ignore, we don't just mean size. We mean its role, its presence, its quiet, constant interference with danger we never even saw coming. How Jupiter's gravity reaches across space. Gravity is strange. It's not something we can see, but we feel its effects every second of every day. Now imagine gravity millions of times stronger than Earth's. That's what Jupiter is throwing into space every moment. Even from hundreds of millions of kilometers away, Jupiter's gravity can nudge comets. It can pull a wandering asteroid into a different orbit. It can grab something violent and steer it harmlessly away. This invisible grip doesn't need to be dramatic. Sometimes all it takes is a slight curve in a comet's path, a small delay in an asteroid's spin, and suddenly Earth is no longer in the crosshairs. And because this is happening so far from us, we rarely notice. But the math shows us Jupiter's gravity isn't just strong, it's precise. It catches things with a reach so wide, it's like having an invisible net stretched across the darkness. That net has saved Earth more times than we know, and it's still there, still stretching, still pulling, silently, behind the curtain of stars. The strange dance between planets. Every planet in our solar system is part of a slow, swirling dance. But Jupiter doesn't just move in rhythm, it leads. With every orbit, it gently tugs on Earth, and Earth tugs back in a much smaller way. This cosmic choreography creates a kind of harmony. The orbits stay stable, the space between planets stays mostly clean, but when something foreign, like an icy comet or rogue rock, enters the dance, Jupiter is often the first to respond. Sometimes it pulls the object close and absorbs it. Sometimes it redirects it entirely. Occasionally, it tosses it into a long orbit that won't cross Earth for thousands of years, if ever. This constant balance is delicate. If Jupiter were just a little smaller, or placed differently, Earth might have been hit hundreds more times in its history, but that's not how the music played out. Instead, this ancient dance continues, smooth, subtle, and full of quiet heroics we only notice when we slow down and listen closely to the rhythms of space. Invisible lines pulling at Earth. Out in space there are no ropes, no chains, but there are lines. Invisible ones. Gravitational threads that tug gently between planets, moons, and stars. Earth is wrapped in many of these lines, and one of the strongest comes from Jupiter. Even from hundreds of millions of miles away, Jupiter's gravity softly stretches toward Earth like a whisper across the dark. It doesn't shake us, it steadies us. These invisible lines create small patterns in Earth's orbit. A slight tilt here, a little nudge there. We don't feel it, but without it, our seasons might wobble. Our climate might drift. Jupiter isn't trying to control Earth, but its presence keeps things from spinning into chaos. Think of it like a calm hand on the wheel, not turning it, just keeping it steady when space gets turbulent. So while we sleep, while we live, while we orbit, there are lines around us, quiet ones, and Jupiter's thread is among the strongest holding us in place. What almost hit us, but didn't. Not all near misses get headlines. In fact, most don't. Some asteroids skim by the Earth quietly, and we only discover them after they've passed. But many never even come close, because they were deflected long before. And that's where Jupiter steps in. Imagine a rogue rock hurtling toward the inner solar system. If it drifts near Jupiter, that's usually the end of the journey. It gets pulled in, or redirected entirely. There are real examples of this. Astronomers have tracked asteroids with dangerous orbits. ones that could have crossed Earth's path. But a single pass near Jupiter changed their fate. Sometimes it's not one object, but whole families of debris, long trails of fragments from broken comets. If Jupiter hadn't absorbed the parent body, those fragments might still be floating through our skies. We never saw them because they never got close, and that might be the most comforting mystery of all, that some of Earth's closest calls were quietly erased by something massive watching from afar. Where the asteroids go when Jupiter speaks. The asteroid belt sits between Mars and Jupiter, a region filled with rocky leftovers from the solar system's early days. It could have been a planet, but Jupiter's gravity made sure it wasn't. Instead of clumping together, the rocks were stirred apart. Jupiter's gravitational pull created gaps in the belt, empty lanes called Kirkwood gaps, where no asteroids linger long. They get flung out or pulled in. These pathways aren't chaotic. They're carefully sculpted by resonance, a quiet rhythm between Jupiter's orbit and the rocks inside the belt. Some get nudged gently, others get catapulted completely, and many of those who get pushed out, they never make it to Earth. Jupiter either consumes them or changes their path just enough to miss us, like a bouncer at the edge of a crowd, letting some pass, but not toward danger. So while the asteroid belt looks like a minefield, it's actually more like a quarantine zone, one shaped and softened by Jupiter's steady presence. The quiet power of the gas giant. Jupiter doesn't have a rocky surface. You couldn't stand on it. You'd sink endlessly into clouds and storms. But that doesn't make it soft. Its power comes from presence, not pressure. Its gravity, its sheer mass, those are its muscles. And unlike Earth or Mars, it doesn't need to erupt or fracture to show strength. It just exists, and that's enough to shift everything around it. A planet this big could have crushed other objects into submission, but Jupiter's power isn't about destruction, it's about redirection, about choosing what it lets through and what it doesn't. Even its magnetosphere, the largest in the solar system, stretches millions of miles. It captures charged particles, protects its moons, and forms a magnetic bubble that interacts with solar winds. Jupiter doesn't need to be loud. Its strength is in silence, in scale, in subtle curves and orbit changes. That's real power, the kind that moves entire systems without ever needing to raise its voice. Why Jupiter is full of scars. If you look closely at Jupiter, you'll see marks, swirling storms, and shadows from things that tried to strike it. But instead of cracking, it absorbs them. Like a giant shield, it takes the hits so we don't have to. One of the most famous scars came in 1994, when a comet named Shoemaker-Levy 9 broke apart and slammed into Jupiter in pieces. Each impact left a dark blemish on the planet's surface, scars the size of Earth itself. But Jupiter didn't crumble. It swallowed the comet like a pillow catching darts. If that comet had hit Earth instead, the story would have ended differently. Scientists watched those impacts in awe. It was a cosmic demonstration of Jupiter's role, catching bullets from the deep. Since then, smaller objects have hit Jupiter too. Amateur astronomers have even filmed them live. Each of these marks tells a story of danger that didn't reach us, of violence stopped at the edge, and of a planet that, despite never asking, became the great protector of our tiny blue home. When comets change their minds, comets don't follow rules. They drift through the solar system with icy tails and unpredictable paths. Sometimes they come in close, too close. But Jupiter has a way of persuading them. Its gravity doesn't just pull, it negotiates. As a comet rushes in from the outer edges of the solar system, it might be headed toward Earth. But if Jupiter gets close enough, the story changes. It might redirect the comet's path completely, or send it into a new orbit that keeps it far away from us for hundreds, even thousands of years. Sometimes it flings them out of the solar system entirely. Other times it traps the comet in its own orbit, like a parent holding a child who's wandered too far. It doesn't need to punish, just gently guide things away from trouble. And the comet? It never knew. Neither did we. We just lived on, unaware that Jupiter had quietly rerouted yet another threat before it even showed up on our radar. A barrier made of gravity. We usually think of barriers as something solid. A wall, a shield, a fence. But Jupiter's barrier is made of pure force, invisible, and incredibly wide. Its gravitational field acts like a dome stretched across the outer solar system. Not a hard stop, but a filter. A massive hand in space that says, "Not this way," to many wandering objects. Asteroids that enter certain zones find themselves slowed, turned, or scattered. Comets feel the curve of space changing around them. It's not violent, it's elegant, like a soft current pushing a boat off a dangerous path. Even when an object does make it past, it's often weaker, slower, easier for Earth's atmosphere to handle. Jupiter takes the brunt, the full force, so we don't have to. This barrier has no lights, no warning signs, just an ever-present field of motion that shaped the fate of our planet for billions of years, without ever needing applause. The asteroid belt's secret shepherd. Between Mars and Jupiter lies a vast stretch of rocks, the asteroid belt. It looks like chaos, but there's a strange order to it, and Jupiter is part of that order. Its gravity doesn't just yank and scatter, it also guides. Like a shepherd guiding a restless flock, Jupiter shapes the structure of the belt, creating gaps, clusters, and safe zones. Certain regions stay strangely empty, others swirl in rhythmic harmony. These are no accidents. They're the result of Jupiter's gravitational rhythm, a kind of music that rocks and dust have been dancing to for eons. Without Jupiter, that belt might have collapsed into a new planet, or worse, spilled its contents toward Earth in a rain of destruction. But instead, the gas giant kept things in check. And so, Earth exists in a quieter zone, not because there are no threats nearby, but because something massive nearby is constantly managing the chaos on our behalf. Earth's lucky position in the solar swirl. If Earth had formed just a little closer to the Sun, or a little farther, things might have turned out very differently. But where it ended up, that was lucky, and Jupiter helped. During the early chaos of the solar system, planets shifted. Big ones migrated. Debris flew wildly. And somewhere in all that, Earth found a sweet spot. Warm enough for water, stable enough for life. Jupiter's early movements helped clear dangerous material from Earth's orbit. It might have even prevented super-Earths or rogue planets from disrupting our neighborhood. Some models suggest that without Jupiter, Earth would have been bombarded constantly, or even knocked out of its orbit entirely. We're not just in the Goldilocks zone for heat, we're in the safe zone for impact. And that safe zone wasn't just nature's roll of the dice. It was shaped, protected, and preserved by a giant that never asked for thanks, just quietly kept the chaos elsewhere. When space turns chaotic, every so often the solar system stirs. Comets dive inward, asteroids shift. A distant gravitational tug creates a ripple. These are the moments when space feels less like a quiet ballet and more like a storm. During these periods, the risk to Earth rises, but it's also when Jupiter's role becomes even more crucial. It doesn't panic, it doesn't change, it simply holds. Its mass acts like a calm in the storm, stabilizing orbits, capturing dangerous objects, and reducing the odds of catastrophe. It doesn't stop all chaos, but it absorbs enough to keep Earth's skies mostly serene. And sometimes in these stormy stretches we find evidence, strange flashes on Jupiter's surface, the moment something struck, another object intercepted, another scar earned. So when we say space is dangerous, we must also say Earth is protected, and that truth is written in the stillness of our nights and the swirling storms of a giant planet far away. How Jupiter calms the solar storm. The solar system isn't always gentle. Sometimes waves of radiation and magnetic disruption pulse outward from the sun, solar storms that shake satellites and rattle atmospheres. But Jupiter doesn't just manage physical objects like asteroids, it also absorbs chaos from the sun's more fiery outbursts. Its massive magnetic field, the largest in the solar system, catches and redirects charged particles like a cosmic net. This magnetic bubble is so wide it could hold the sun and still have room to spare. And as it pulses and shifts, it swallows streams of solar wind that might otherwise drift deeper toward Earth. It's not perfect protection, but it softens the blow. And over billions of years, this softening has kept Earth from facing the full storm front of our star's mood swings. So when space feels wild and unpredictable, know this. Somewhere out there, Jupiter is absorbing a portion of that fury, without us ever hearing the sound. The echo of impacts we never felt. We've all heard about asteroid craters, the ones on Earth that changed history. But have you ever thought about the impacts we never experienced? The ones that never left a mark? Jupiter has taken hits that Earth simply couldn't survive. Giant comets, racing at incredible speed, have struck its gaseous atmosphere and vanished into silence. No explosion here, no extinction, just a soft bend in Jupiter's swirling storms. And these weren't just random bumps. Many of them were objects on Earth-crossing trajectories. If Jupiter hadn't intervened, they could have changed the shape of continents or ended entire eras. Some astronomers study these impacts as echoes, not just scars on Jupiter, but evidence of near futures that never arrived. Real moments in space history where Earth stayed quiet because Jupiter took the fall. So when we feel lucky, we're not wrong. We've been spared more than once, and those echoes live on, not in textbooks or memories, but in the soft, stormy folds of a giant far away. A crater on Earth tells part of the story. There's a place in Mexico called Chicxulub. Beneath the soil lies a crater over 90 miles wide, the fingerprint of a catastrophe. Scientists say it was likely an asteroid that ended the reign of dinosaurs. That impact was rare, but it raises a question. How many other rocks were headed toward Earth and never made it? How many near Chicxulubs disappeared before entry? Jupiter's presence makes that question complicated, because in simulations, the gas giant intercepts or redirects many Earth-threatening objects, long before they even approach our skies. If Jupiter hadn't been there, we might not just have one Chicxulub crater, we might have dozens, maybe hundreds, scattered across continents, reshaping life over and over again. Instead, Earth has had long, peaceful stretches, gentle enough for forests, cities, families. And that's not just luck. That's what happens when a massive planet quietly absorbs the bullets meant for someone smaller. What ancient astronomers couldn't see. Long before telescopes, people looked at Jupiter and gave it names. God names. Zeus, Marduk, Guru. It shimmered brighter than most stars, always moving, always returning. They didn't know about gravity wells or orbital mechanics, but even without science, they felt that it was important, that it meant something, that this slow-moving light in the sky was different. What they couldn't see was what it was doing, shielding Earth, reshaping orbits, calming storms. They saw its beauty, but missed its purpose. And yet, they honoured it anyway. In old stories, Jupiter was a protector, a judge, a benevolent giant. Maybe those myths weren't so far from truth. Maybe they sensed what science would later explain, that something powerful up there was keeping the peace. And today, as we orbit in digital silence, sending probes and equations into space, we're still catching up with what ancient eyes quietly understood. Jupiter has always mattered, the stormy eye that always stares. On Jupiter's surface, there's a storm, a massive, swirling oval called the Great Red Spot. It's been raging for centuries, wide enough to fit 2 Earths across, always spinning, always watching. We don't fully understand why it persists. Other storms come and go, but this one stays, like a constant gaze across the solar system, fierce but silent. It almost feels symbolic, the eye of a giant protector watching over the chaos, pulling in danger when needed, a place that absorbs rather than reacts, that sees more than we ever could. The red spot has likely swallowed smaller impacts. It's watched comets spiral in. It's been a canvas for collisions and karma alike. And still, it spins. Some say it's just weather, but in a poetic way, it feels like more. Like the eye of a guardian who never blinks, always facing outward toward the place where danger comes from, and ready to meet it first. Why bigger doesn't always mean louder. When something is massive, we often expect it to be noisy, dramatic, demanding attention. But Jupiter teaches us that true strength doesn't need to shout. It doesn't roar across the sky or pulse like a flashing star. It simply holds its place. Vast, quiet, steady. And that's what makes it powerful. Not noise, but presence. While smaller planets shake with eruptions or tilt unpredictably, Jupiter stays composed. Its storms are large, yes, but distant. Controlled, contained within layers of cloud and gas. And while it could fling chaos toward the inner planets, it doesn't. It holds back, chooses silence, allows Earth to orbit without fear. That's a choice only the strong can make. Jupiter's lesson is clear. You don't need to be loud to protect. Sometimes the mightiest force in the room is the one that doesn't interrupt, but simply stays and steadies the space around it. How Jupiter bends danger away. Think of a comet, cold and silent, rushing in from the outer edges of the solar system. It doesn't know it's dangerous. It's just moving, but its path points straight toward Earth. And then far ahead, a gravitational presence waits. Jupiter. Its field begins to pull, just slightly at first, like a whisper curving through space. The comet swerves, a small bend, then another. Before it ever reaches the inner solar system, its fate has changed. It might loop endlessly around the sun, or vanish into deep space, or crash into Jupiter itself. But Earth is no longer in danger. This isn't luck, it's mechanics, it's timing, it's the quiet choreography of mass and motion, and it happens more than we know. Small deflections that make big differences. Each bend is a hidden story, one where Earth goes untouched, skies remain calm, and we continue our lives, never knowing how close we came to being a footnote in cosmic history. The strange shield we didn't build. Every great civilization has built walls, defenses, protections against the unknown. But Earth, our strongest shield, wasn't built by us. It formed long before we did and never asked for thanks. Jupiter became that shield not through design, but through scale, through timing, through position. A wall of gravity that doesn't block but bends, doesn't stop time but buys it. We send satellites and telescopes to watch space, scan for threats, predict impacts. But long before all that, Jupiter was already handling the worst of it. Its shield is not visible. No lights flash when it blocks danger. But the results are written in Earth's quiet survival, in the gaps between extinctions, in the peace between impacts. And perhaps that's the strangest part. Our most essential protector is not of this world, not made of stone or steel, but of swirling clouds and silent force hovering far beyond our skies. Why small planets owe big planets everything? In space, size matters, but not in the way we might expect. Big planets don't just dominate, they also protect, shape, stabilize, and in doing so, they allow the small ones to thrive. Jupiter didn't crush Earth or cast it aside. It made space for it, cleared its path, took on the risks so Earth could evolve in relative peace. Without that protection, small planets like ours might never have survived the early chaos. The flying debris, the wandering rocks, the collisions that left other worlds broken or barren. Mercury got scorched. Mars never finished growing. Venus lost its chance. But Earth stayed whole. And behind that quiet success, Jupiter loomed like a parent who never left. So when we look at Earth and see life, colour, cities, forests, we are also looking at the quiet rewards of protection, of a cosmic arrangement where the big made room for the small and didn't ask for anything in return, a solar system of shifting chances. In the beginning, the solar system wasn't stable. It was wild, explosive, unpredictable. Planets formed and migrated. Orbits shifted like puzzle pieces looking for their place. Nothing was certain. But Jupiter changed that. With its weight, it anchored the chaos, slowed some planets, pushed others, held back debris. It turned randomness into rhythm. That rhythm created a system where planets could settle, moons could form, life could begin. Not perfectly, not everywhere, but somewhere. And for us, that somewhere was Earth. Without Jupiter, those shifting chances might have swallowed everything. Earth might have been pulled inward, or shattered, or left spinning through empty space. But instead, the odds landed in our favour, because one giant decided to hold the dice still, just long enough, for life to roll into being. Jupiter's role in Earth's calm skies. When you look up at the night sky, and it feels peaceful, open, like nothing could ever go wrong, that feeling has a silent partner, because that calm isn't guaranteed. Earth floats in a universe that rarely rests. Rogue rocks, icy wanderers, radiation storms, they all exist, but most never reach us. Jupiter doesn't just protect us from impact. It creates an environment where Earth can stay stable, where we can build cities, plant crops, and grow generations under a quiet dome of safety. Without Jupiter's constant regulation of space traffic, those peaceful nights might have been full of fireballs, crashes, collapses of atmosphere and rhythm. So when you step outside on a still night and everything feels just right, the stars hanging still, the moon drifting softly, it's not just beautiful, it's a byproduct of something immense, holding danger back without a sound. The comets that never made it. Every year, we discover new comets, icy bodies sliding in from the cold edges of the solar system. But there are countless others we never meet because they never make it to Earth's view. Many of them begin their journey near the Oort cloud, drifting for millennia. But before they reach the inner planets, they encounter a guardian. Jupiter's massive gravity field acts like a checkpoint. Some comets are deflected into harmless orbits, others are captured, becoming long-term companions, and some are pulled in and disappear into Jupiter's swirling clouds. If even a fraction of those comets had reached Earth, we might be telling a very different story today. But we don't, because their paths were changed, erased by an unseen curve in space. So while we name and track the few comets that do pass close, let's not forget the silent majority, the ones that Jupiter stopped before we even had time to look up, the long arm of orbital influence. It's hard to imagine distance in space. Jupiter is hundreds of millions of kilometers away from Earth, and yet it touches us, not directly, not physically, but gravitationally. Its influence reaches across the solar system like a stretched out arm, not to hold us, but to keep space around us from becoming too unpredictable. That long gravitational reach stabilizes orbits, sweeps debris, and even interacts with other planets' paths. It creates subtle harmonies that keep Earth from drifting too close to danger zones. And these harmonies aren't loud or obvious. They're soft, measured, like the low hum of a distant drum keeping time in a symphony we didn't realize we were part of. That's Jupiter's style, distant, quiet, but deeply involved. Without that long gravitational touch, Earth's orbit might be more chaotic, and our history far more fragile. Why Earth isn't full of holes. When we study the moon, we see craters. So many. Scars of ancient collisions left unhealed. Mars has them too. Even Mercury looks bruised by time and rock. But Earth? We have some, but far fewer than expected. That's strange considering how old the planet is. So where are all the holes? Some were erased by erosion or plate tectonics, but others were never made, because Jupiter caught the objects before they reached us. It's like having a cosmic goalie, stopping shots on goal before we even see them coming. And the result? Forests instead of craters, oceans instead of scars. So when we walk across grassy fields, climb untouched mountains, or swim in calm waters, we may not see the craters that could have been, but they're part of the story, the part Jupiter helped us avoid. How Jupiter caught the things we never knew. Not all protection comes with fanfare. Some of Jupiter's most important saves were invisible. Many of the objects it redirected, absorbed, or deflected were never detected by our telescopes. They passed through the dark unnoticed, except by Jupiter. These near misses weren't logged in history books. There were no fiery headlines. But they matter. They matter because each one left Earth untouched, quietly continuing its rotation without pause. We live on a planet full of life, and that life depends on routine, on safety, on not being interrupted by catastrophic events every few centuries. Jupiter helps maintain that fragile rhythm, and so the biggest contributions often go unseen, but they're felt in the stability of our days, in the fact that we're here at all. Jupiter caught more than we'll ever know, and that's a truth worth whispering into the stars. The cosmic vacuum cleaner theory. It sounds funny at first, the idea of Jupiter being a vacuum cleaner for space. But that image isn't far off, because in the grand hallway of the solar system, Jupiter sits near the door, sweeping up all the clutter before it floats too far inward. Comets, rocks, fragments. It sucks them in or knocks them away. Scientists have run simulations. In most of them, without Jupiter, Earth gets hit far more often. Not just little impacts, but planet-changing ones. With Jupiter in place, the danger is reduced dramatically, as if some silent guardian is constantly tidying the pathway ahead of us, clearing the mess we never saw coming. And unlike a vacuum we turn on and off, Jupiter is always running, always cleaning, always sifting danger from the dark, without ever once asking us to notice. What scientists quietly admire. Behind every big discovery, there's often a quiet respect, and in the astronomy community, Jupiter holds that space. It's not just about size or beauty, it's about how useful it is, how helpful it's been to Earth, not by design, but by presence. Scientists admire how it captures rogue comets, how it balances orbits, how its timing, mass, and distance are just right. Not too close, not too far. A cosmic coincidence that feels almost poetic. When they speak about Jupiter, it's not loud, it's reverent, like they're acknowledging something that's been quietly helping from the wings while the show goes on. And the more we study it, its gravity, its influence, its patterns, the more we realize we still don't know everything. And maybe we don't need to. Maybe it's enough just to be grateful. How Jupiter shapes Earth's destiny. Fate is a big word, but when it comes to space, certain things really do shape what's possible. Jupiter is one of them. If it had never formed, Earth might have had a very different story. Maybe no dinosaurs, no oceans, no people, or maybe no Earth at all. Its gravity changed the layout of planets, its position sculpted the belt, its movements carved out where it was safe to be. And because of that, Earth's journey remained gentle enough to support life. Not always easy, but possible. And that possibility is everything. We often think of destiny as written in the stars, but sometimes it's shaped by what doesn't happen. And Jupiter made sure we avoided so many endings just so we could begin. A protector without a voice. If Jupiter had a voice, it would be deep, slow, kind, but it doesn't speak. It doesn't shout. It just acts. No alerts, no warnings, just a presence. Pulling here, deflecting there, shielding without fanfare. And because it never brags, we almost forget it's doing anything at all. But in the silence of space, that kind of protection is rare. Most things drift, collide, destroy. Jupiter holds steady. Like a parent who doesn't need applause, they just keep you safe because they care. It's the protector no one asked for, but we all needed. And while it can't speak, the message is clear. I've got this. And so we sleep. We grow, we orbit, never knowing how many quiet choices Jupiter made for us, simply by being there. The silent deal between Jupiter and Earth. There's no contract, no ceremony, just an unspoken agreement. Jupiter watches. Earth thrives. It's not a one-time event. It's an ongoing exchange. As Earth rotates softly, tucked close to the Sun, Jupiter stands at the outer gate, intercepting trouble, bending risk, softening threats. In return, Earth gets time to evolve, to learn, to create, to wonder, to send tiny machines out into the dark and ask, what else is out there? This deal isn't fair. Jupiter does more. But it's never complained, never asked Earth for anything, just kept honouring the promise. And maybe that's the truest kind of partnership, one that's never declared, only lived, moment by quiet moment, in the rhythm of space. When gravity becomes a shield, gravity is usually something we take for granted. It pulls us down, keeps our feet on the ground. But out in space, gravity can become something else entirely, a shield. Jupiter's gravity is so massive it doesn't just hold things, it deflects them. Like an invisible dome, it bends the trajectory of dangerous objects with just the force of its pull. There are no walls, no fences, no buttons to press, just pure mass, doing the work of protection across millions of kilometers. Even the Sun's gravity doesn't offer this kind of shielding. It's too central, too focused. But Jupiter, it plays defense, catches the curveballs before they land too close. It's a reminder that the most powerful forms of protection aren't always seen. Sometimes they're simply felt, like a quiet force shaping the future without saying a word. The dance of timing and luck. So much in the universe depends on timing. A star flares at the wrong moment, and a planet never forms. A rock drifts too close, and life never begins. Jupiter's presence added rhythm to the chaos. It nudged certain objects away just before impact. It settled orbits into safe patterns just in time for Earth to grow stable. Some call it coincidence, others call it divine design. Either way, the timing worked out, and Jupiter was the reason why those moments lined up the way they did. If Earth had formed earlier, if Jupiter had been smaller, if their paths had crossed differently, the outcome might have been far less forgiving. But here we are, breathing, building, wondering. Because somewhere in the dark, a giant was dancing, and that dance made space for us. Hidden collisions in the past. Not all space collisions leave a mark we can see. Some are swallowed by Jupiter before telescopes ever catch them. Others happened long before we knew how to look. But scientists have found patterns in Jupiter's atmosphere, strange flashes, dark spots, waves of energy, silent proof of impacts that came and went without a trace here on Earth. These hidden collisions might have been catastrophic if they'd landed elsewhere. They could have changed Earth's climate, or reset its evolution, or even ended life as we know it. But Jupiter stood in the way, absorbing the momentum, softening the story, turning what could have been tragedy into barely a footnote in cosmic time. It makes you wonder, how many histories were rewritten out there simply because a gas giant took the hit instead? The fragments that never reached us. When comets or asteroids break apart, they leave behind trails, debris, shards of ancient rock. These fragments can be just as dangerous as the original object, maybe even more so, but many of those fragments never reached Earth. Why? Because Jupiter was nearby. Its gravitational pull scattered them, caught them, or slowed them into safer orbits. Some pieces ended up in the asteroid belt, some got lost in deep space. Others vanished into Jupiter's clouds, dissolving like dust in water. And the ones that did pass near Earth were fewer, weaker, easier to handle. The damage, if any, was minimal. So when you hear about a comet breaking apart, remember that break wasn't always the end of the threat. But thanks to Jupiter, the pieces rarely made it to our doorstep. How Jupiter bends time and space. Jupiter's mass doesn't just affect motion, it warps the very fabric of space around it. Like a marble placed on a stretched blanket, it bends everything near. That bend affects time too, just slightly. Clocks run a little slower near massive objects, and Jupiter, being so huge, actually distorts time and space in its immediate surroundings. It's a subtle effect. We don't feel it on Earth, but it's there, a quiet ripple in the cosmic fabric, shaped by a planet that doesn't even have a surface to stand on. This bending also reshapes the paths of comets, the arcs of moons, the speed of particles. It's not just a planet, it's a presence, a gravitational influence that curves reality itself. And while Earth spins gently in its own rhythm, Jupiter's slow, steady pull shapes the tempo of the solar system, like a hidden conductor behind the music of the stars. When a planet becomes a guardian, not every planet gets to be a protector. Most are too small, too quiet, or too self-contained. But Jupiter? It became more than just a world. It became a guardian, not by design, not by plan, but by the sheer nature of what it is. So massive, so magnetic, so beautifully placed between danger and life. It didn't build walls or set traps. It just existed in the right place, with the right power, and that was enough to bend the future around itself. You might say Earth was lucky, but maybe it was more than luck. Maybe the solar system formed in such a way that Jupiter would always stand between us and harm. And that's what makes Jupiter feel less like a neighbour, and more like a protector who chose their post long before we knew we'd need one. The swirling chaos it keeps outside. If you could zoom out far enough, you'd see it. The chaos, swarms of debris circling the sun, icy fragments slicing through the dark, unpredictable bodies moving like dice across a black table. Jupiter lives just on the edge of that chaos, not in the calm centre, but where the storm begins. And from that position it filters, catches, redirects. Without it, much of that chaos might drift further in. Earth might sit in the middle of a cosmic shooting gallery, but we don't. Because Jupiter holds the line, its orbit doesn't wobble, its gravity doesn't sleep. It patrols the edge of order, making sure the mess stays outside. So while Earth dreams beneath calm skies, Jupiter spins at the edge, keeping the wildness out where it belongs. Why Mars wasn't as lucky? Mars is our neighbour, our cousin planet. But its story is very different from ours, and some believe it's because Jupiter didn't protect it the same way. Mars formed smaller, closer to the asteroid belt, and more exposed to the debris and instability Jupiter helped contain. Some scientists think Jupiter's early movement flung material away from the Mars region, stunting its growth. It was left lighter, thinner, more vulnerable. Without a magnetic field or thick atmosphere, Mars became a world carved by what hit it, instead of one that grew in peace. Its surface tells a story of impacts, missed chances, and frozen hopes. Jupiter couldn't protect every planet, but Earth was far enough, stable enough, lucky enough to sit in just the right place, behind the shield, while Mars stood just outside it. Earth's chances in a different universe. It's easy to think of Earth as inevitable, like life was always going to happen here. But space doesn't work like that. The tiniest change could have led to an entirely different outcome. What if Jupiter had never formed, or had been smaller, or farther out? Earth's orbit might have been disturbed, or worse, destroyed. The early solar system was a chaotic place. A single rogue planet, a slightly delayed collision, could have erased the path that led to us. But Jupiter was there, not as a certainty, but as a variable that happened to be just right. Its mass, its movement, its position, all aligned to give Earth a rare and fragile window. So when we say we're lucky to be here, we're not exaggerating. In a different universe, with slightly different math, Earth never makes it. But in this one, Jupiter made space for us, the secret hero in our cosmic family. Every solar system has its cast of characters: the flashy Sun, the sparkling Venus, the mysterious Saturn, and then there's Jupiter, never loud but always there. It doesn't dazzle like some planets. It doesn't whisper romantic myths like the moon. But beneath its storms and rings of moons lies a role no other planet plays. Jupiter is the unsung hero, the one who steps in when no one else can, who bears the brunt of incoming threats and stays quiet about it. And like many heroes, its work is invisible. We don't see the objects it deflects. We don't feel the gravity it balances. But our safety depends on it every single day. Jupiter doesn't need praise. It just spins in the distance, holding space for life to thrive. And maybe that's what makes it the truest kind of hero, the kind who acts and never asks for credit. Why life may owe Jupiter its chance. Life is delicate. It needs time, space, stability. On Earth it had that millions of quiet years where oceans formed, plants emerged, creatures crawled, and finally, humans began to wonder. But without Jupiter, that silence may have never lasted. Earth might have faced repeated strikes, mass extinctions every few centuries. And delicate ecosystems don't survive that kind of chaos. By holding back the cosmic debris, Jupiter gave Earth something precious: continuity, a space where life could not just spark, but stay lit, evolve, flourish. It didn't do it for us. It didn't know we'd be here. But its presence made our presence possible, a quiet stagehand in a theatre where life became the star. So when we speak of evolution, of oceans, of DNA and discovery, we should also whisper thanks to the giant who kept resetting the clock from happening too soon. A cosmic chessboard with an invisible player, the solar system moves like a game of chess, each planet with its path, each comet with its risky trajectory, and in the middle of it all, Jupiter plays a quiet strategy. It didn't build walls or set traps. It just existed in the right place, with the right power, and that was enough to bend the future around itself. You might say Earth was lucky, but maybe it was more than luck. Maybe the solar system formed in such a way that Jupiter would always stand between us and harm. And that's what makes Jupiter feel less like a neighbour and more like a protector who chose their post long before we knew we'd need one. The swirling chaos it keeps outside. If you could zoom out far enough, you'd see it. The chaos, swarms of debris circling the sun, icy fragments slicing through the dark, unpredictable bodies moving like dice across a black table. Jupiter lives just on the edge of that chaos, not in the calm centre, but where the storm begins. And from that position it filters, catches, redirects. Without it, much of that chaos might drift further in. Earth might sit in the middle of a cosmic shooting gallery, but we don't. Because Jupiter holds the line, its orbit doesn't wobble, its gravity doesn't sleep. It patrols the edge of order, making sure the mess stays outside. So while Earth dreams beneath calm skies, Jupiter spins at the edge, keeping the wildness out where it belongs. Why Mars wasn't as lucky? Mars is our neighbour, our cousin planet. But its story is very different from ours, and some believe it's because Jupiter didn't protect it the same way. Mars formed smaller, closer to the asteroid belt, and more exposed to the debris and instability Jupiter helped contain. Some scientists think Jupiter's early movement flung material away from the Mars region, stunting its growth. It was left lighter, thinner, more vulnerable. Without a magnetic field or thick atmosphere, Mars became a world carved by what hit it, instead of one that grew in peace. Its surface tells a story of impacts, missed chances, and frozen hopes. Jupiter couldn't protect every planet, but Earth was far enough, stable enough, lucky enough to sit in just the right place, behind the shield, while Mars stood just outside it. Earth's chances in a different universe. It's easy to think of Earth as inevitable, like life was always going to happen here. But space doesn't work like that. The tiniest change could have led to an entirely different outcome. What if Jupiter had never formed, or had been smaller, or farther out? Earth's orbit might have been disturbed, or worse, destroyed. The early solar system was a chaotic place. A single rogue planet, a slightly delayed collision, could have erased the path that led to us. But Jupiter was there, not as a certainty, but as a variable that happened to be just right. Its mass, its movement, its position, all aligned to give Earth a rare and fragile window. So when we say we're lucky to be here, we're not exaggerating. In a different universe, with slightly different math, Earth never makes it. But in this one, Jupiter made space for us, the secret hero in our cosmic family. Every solar system has its cast of characters: the flashy Sun, the sparkling Venus, the mysterious Saturn, and then there's Jupiter, never loud but always there. It doesn't dazzle like some planets. It doesn't whisper romantic myths like the moon. But beneath its storms and rings of moons lies a role no other planet plays. Jupiter is the unsung hero, the one who steps in when no one else can, who bears the brunt of incoming threats and stays quiet about it. And like many heroes, its work is invisible. We don't see the objects it deflects. We don't feel the gravity it balances. But our safety depends on it every single day. Jupiter doesn't need praise. It just spins in the distance, holding space for life to thrive. And maybe that's what makes it the truest kind of hero, the kind who acts and never asks for credit, why life may owe Jupiter its chance. Life is delicate. It needs time, space, stability. On Earth, it had that millions of quiet years where oceans formed, plants emerged, creatures crawled, and finally, humans began to wonder. But without Jupiter, that silence may have never lasted. Earth might have faced repeated strikes, mass extinctions every few centuries. And delicate ecosystems don't survive that kind of chaos. By holding back the cosmic debris, Jupiter gave Earth something precious: continuity, a space where life could not just spark, but stay lit, evolve, flourish. It didn't do it for us. It didn't know we'd be here. But its presence made our presence possible, a quiet stagehand in a theatre where life became the star. So when we speak of evolution, of oceans, of DNA and discovery, we should also whisper thanks to the giant who kept resetting the clock from happening too soon. A cosmic chessboard with an invisible player, the solar system moves like a game of chess, each planet with its path, each comet with its risky trajectory, and in the middle of it all, Jupiter plays a quiet strategy. It didn't build walls or set traps. It just existed in the right place, with the right power, and that was enough to bend the future around itself. You might say Earth was lucky, but maybe it was more than luck. Maybe the solar system formed in such a way that Jupiter would always stand between us and harm. And that's what makes Jupiter feel less like a neighbour, and more like a protector who chose their post long before we knew we'd need one. The swirling chaos it keeps outside. If you could zoom out far enough, you'd see it. The chaos, swarms of debris circling the sun, icy fragments slicing through the dark, unpredictable bodies moving like dice across a black table. Jupiter lives just on the edge of that chaos, not in the calm centre, but where the storm begins. And from that position it filters, catches, redirects. Without it, much of that chaos might drift further in. Earth might sit in the middle of a cosmic shooting gallery, but we don't. Because Jupiter holds the line, its orbit doesn't wobble, its gravity doesn't sleep. It patrols the edge of order, making sure the mess stays outside. So while Earth dreams beneath calm skies, Jupiter spins at the edge, keeping the wildness out where it belongs. Why Mars wasn't as lucky? Mars is our neighbour, our cousin planet. But its story is very different from ours, and some believe it's because Jupiter didn't protect it the same way. Mars formed smaller, closer to the asteroid belt, and more exposed to the debris and instability Jupiter helped contain. Some scientists think Jupiter's early movement flung material away from the Mars region, stunting its growth. It was left lighter, thinner, more vulnerable. Without a magnetic field or thick atmosphere, Mars became a world carved by what hit it, instead of one that grew in peace. Its surface tells a story of impacts, missed chances, and frozen hopes. Jupiter couldn't protect every planet, but Earth was far enough, stable enough, lucky enough to sit in just the right place, behind the shield, while Mars stood just outside it. Earth's chances in a different universe. It's easy to think of Earth as inevitable, like life was always going to happen here. But space doesn't work like that. The tiniest change could have led to an entirely different outcome. What if Jupiter had never formed, or had been smaller, or farther out? Earth's orbit might have been disturbed, or worse, destroyed. The early solar system was a chaotic place. A single rogue planet, a slightly delayed collision, could have erased the path that led to us. But Jupiter was there, not as a certainty, but as a variable that happened to be just right. Its mass, its movement, its position, all aligned to give Earth a rare and fragile window. So when we say we're lucky to be here, We're not exaggerating. In a different universe, with slightly different math, Earth never makes it. But in this one, Jupiter made space for us. The secret hero in our cosmic family. Every solar system has its cast of characters. The flashy Sun, the sparkling Venus, the mysterious Saturn, and then there's Jupiter. Never loud, but always there. It doesn't dazzle like some planets. It doesn't whisper romantic myths like the moon. But beneath its storms and rings of moons lies a role no other planet plays. Jupiter is the unsung hero, the one who steps in when no one else can, who bears the brunt of incoming threats and stays quiet about it. And like many heroes, its work is invisible. We don't see the objects it deflects. We don't feel the gravity it balances. But our safety depends on it every single day. Jupiter doesn't need praise. It just spins in the distance, holding space for life to thrive. And maybe that's what makes it the truest kind of hero, the kind who acts and never asks for credit. Why life may owe Jupiter its chance. Life is delicate. It needs time, space, stability. On Earth, it had that millions of quiet years where oceans formed, plants emerged, creatures crawled, and finally, humans began to wonder. But without Jupiter, that silence may have never lasted. Earth might have faced repeated strikes, mass extinctions every few centuries. And delicate ecosystems don't survive that kind of chaos. By holding back the cosmic debris, Jupiter gave Earth something precious: continuity, a space where life could not just spark, but stay lit, evolve, flourish. It didn't do it for us. It didn't know we'd be here. But its presence made our presence possible, a quiet stagehand in a theatre where life became the star. So when we speak of evolution, of oceans, of DNA and discovery, we should also whisper thanks to the giant who kept resetting the clock from happening too soon. A cosmic chessboard with an invisible player. The solar system moves like a game of chess, each planet with its path, each comet with its risky trajectory. And in the middle of it all, Jupiter plays a quiet strategy. The moons that orbit its protective field. Jupiter doesn't protect just Earth. It has its own little solar system, over 90 moons, each with a story, a surface, a dance of their own. Some of these moons, like Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, might even hold oceans beneath their icy crusts. Entire hidden worlds. They orbit within Jupiter's magnetic shield, protected from solar radiation, warmed by tidal forces, and stabilized by the gas giant's gravity. Jupiter doesn't just shield us, it hosts potential. It keeps its moons close, guards them, guides them, like a parent watching over a crowded home. And who knows? One day, if we reach those moons, we might find life there too. A second spark, nurtured by the same guardian that made Earth's spark possible. Gravity's quiet language of love. Gravity doesn't use words. It doesn't write poetry. But in the way it pulls, holds, steadies, there is something deeply emotional about it. Jupiter's gravity has shaped orbits, saved planets, caught comets, and curved space. Not out of will, but out of pure presence. Still, it feels like care. Not all love is loud. Sometimes it's quiet, a force in the background, strong, invisible, always making sure things don't fall apart. Jupiter speaks that kind of love, the kind that doesn't need to be noticed to be known, the kind that acts without ever asking for applause. And in that silent language, it has whispered to Earth across time, "You're safe now. Go ahead and grow." How Earth stays small and safe. In a solar system with giants, Earth is tiny, fragile, a blue speck in a dark swirl. And yet, we've stayed safe. Not untouched, but protected enough to survive. We're not at the centre. We're not the biggest. but we're in the right place, with the right neighbours, especially one giant who keeps danger from knocking too hard. Jupiter's size makes Earth's safety possible. It takes the hits we couldn't handle, shapes the skies we don't even see. We often think power protects power, but in space it's the opposite. The big protect the small, and Jupiter has done that job, quietly, endlessly, and without ever being asked. So Earth remains, with its mountains, music, children, and dreams, small but held by something large enough to care. The cosmic cradle we never noticed. Cradles don't always look like baskets. Sometimes they look like invisible fields of gravity, wrapped around a fragile planet. Jupiter's presence has been a kind of cradle, holding Earth in a safer orbit, calming the currents of incoming chaos, keeping danger just far enough away. It never rocked us to sleep, but it gave us the space to sleep, to grow, to imagine things like lullabies and stories and stars. And the most beautiful part? We didn't even notice. While Earth turned, while flowers opened, while children were born, the cradle held steady in the background. So the next time someone asks where Earth's luck came from, look beyond the moon, beyond Mars, and you'll find it spinning, quietly holding the silence, the guardian that never boasts. There are protectors who wear armor, and then there are those who wear clouds. Jupiter wears no medals. It needs no titles. It doesn't demand worship or even attention. It simply shows up every day, every night, in the far corner of the sky, doing its work without praise. Boasting would be easy. Jupiter could say, "I stopped that asteroid," or "You're alive because of me," but it never does. Its strength is in its silence, and maybe that's why we trust it so deeply. Not because it asks us to, but because it never needed to. Real guardians don't speak for recognition. They speak through action, and Jupiter's voice is carved in the peaceful rhythm of Earth's uninterrupted orbit. A night sky gift will never repay. When we gaze up at night, we often thank the stars, the moon, the beauty of it all. But behind that beauty, there's something more, a gift we rarely see. Jupiter didn't give us sunsets or rainbows. It gave us time. Time to evolve, to walk, to laugh, to get things wrong and try again. We could never repay that gift. Not with science, not with poetry, not even with gratitude whispered under the stars. But we can remember. We can honor it by living well, by cherishing the stillness it helped provide. Because even if Jupiter never hears our thanks, it gave us the most precious thing of all, the chance to be here, right now, telling this story, how danger drifts and disappears. Not all danger arrives with a bang. Sometimes it drifts, quietly, slowly, a rock the size of a house, a frozen comet with no name. But before it reaches us, something massive changes its path. Just a nudge, a turn, a delay that pushes it centuries away. We never see these disappearances. They don't make headlines, but they happen, all the time, because Jupiter is out there, catching things we never knew were coming. It doesn't stop danger by fighting it. It rearranges it, redirects it so it vanishes into the dark, like a shadow that never gets the chance to fall. And while Earth moves forward, untouched, the record of those drifting dangers fades, held only in Jupiter's endless orbit and memory, Jupiter's quiet promise to keep Earth breathing. No one asked Jupiter to protect us. It was never assigned, never instructed. But somehow, in the quiet dance of gravity and time, it became a promise. Not a spoken one, not even a conscious one, just a cosmic truth. I will be here, and you will have space to live. It's a promise written in every orbit, every deflected comet, every crater that formed on Jupiter, not Earth. And tonight, as we rest beneath gentle skies, that promise continues, not loudly, just steadily. Jupiter doesn't sleep, and because it doesn't, Earth still breathes, dreams and wonders what lies beyond. The dream of a second sun. Long ago, Jupiter almost became a star. It had the mass, the momentum, but not quite enough to ignite. Just a few times heavier, and our sky would have had two suns. Imagine that, Earth bathed in twin lights, two shadows beneath every tree, days that never fully dimmed, nights that never got truly dark. But that dream stayed quiet. Jupiter remained a giant of gas, not fire, and perhaps that was for the best, because life as we know it depends on contrast, on darkness, on the rhythm of day and night. Jupiter's restraint became Earth's rhythm, so the star that never was became a shield instead, not light-giving, but life-saving. The ancient rhythm beneath the stars. There's a pulse to the solar system, a slow mathematical rhythm playing out across the centuries, the orbits, the tilts, the tides, all in quiet coordination. Jupiter doesn't break that rhythm, it anchors it, like a deep drum beneath a song. Without it, things wobble, spin too far, drift apart. And Earth? It relies on that balance. Our orbit stays smooth, our seasons stay steady. Our axis doesn't tilt into chaos. Jupiter keeps the beat, not with sound, but with gravity, with presence, with weight. A rhythm we can't hear, but one we're all dancing to. Even now, as you breathe, your heart follows a rhythm that the planets themselves helped keep steady. How Jupiter taught us humility. We often think we're the center of everything, the crown jewel of the cosmos. But then we look at Jupiter, and we remember how small we are. It's so big, so ancient, so quietly powerful. It doesn't chase glory. It doesn't need to. It just is. And in its being, it humbles everything around it. It reminds us that we don't control the universe. We live within it, safely, gently, temporarily, because of forces we didn't create. And that kind of reminder isn't scary. It's comforting. Like hearing your grandmother's voice saying, "You don't have to be in charge. You're already being held." Jupiter didn't make Earth, but it made Earth possible, and that's enough to quiet the ego and make room for wonder, what it means to be protected. Protection isn't always about stopping danger. Sometimes it's about not even letting it arrive, about shaping the space around you so that the storm never gets the chance to form. That's what Jupiter does. It doesn't build walls or fight enemies. It simply stands, massive, calm, magnetic, and danger bends away. It's a different kind of strength, one that doesn't require force, just presence. And it reminds us of the quiet protectors in our own lives, people who never made a scene, but made sure we were okay anyway. That kind of protection is rare, in space and in life. And when you find it, you don't always notice it until you feel how safe you've always been. The silent thank you in every sunrise. Every morning the sun rises over Earth. Warm light spreads across the oceans. Trees breathe, people stretch, birds sing. Life begins again. And woven into that moment, invisible but real, is Jupiter, still spinning out there, still guarding the path that made this moment possible. We don't say thank you aloud, but we feel it in the peace of the sky, in the absence of fire, in the rhythm that goes unbroken. Each sunrise is a silent message from the universe. You're still here, you still have time, and Jupiter played a part in that. So even if it never hears us, every breath, every sunrise, every heartbeat is a quiet thank you to the giant who stayed. Why we rarely think about danger. Most of us don't spend our days worrying about asteroids, comets, solar storms. And maybe that's strange, considering how exposed Earth really is. But maybe the reason we don't think about it is because we don't have to. Something out there has been taking care of it for us. Jupiter quietly sweeps away threats, absorbs collisions, and keeps our skies deceptively peaceful. That silence, it's earned. We live in a kind of cosmic bubble, not impenetrable, but softened by something enormous, patient, and unseen. And maybe the greatest gift is the peace of not knowing just how many disasters we avoided, simply by having the right planet in the right place. The gift of ordinary days. We remember the dramatic days, storms, news, events, but the days where nothing happens, those are the most precious. An ordinary day is a miracle in disguise. A clear sky, no incoming threats, time to walk, to think, to be. Jupiter doesn't just block disaster, it creates ordinary days, the kind that allow plants to grow, artists to paint, children to imagine. Because when nothing hits Earth, when the silence continues, life quietly blossoms in the background. And those days, the simple, uneventful ones, may be Jupiter's greatest gift. The ones that let us live without even realizing we were safe all along. How Jupiter changed what never happened. History is full of events, but it's also full of non-events, things that could have happened, but didn't. Extinctions that never occurred, impacts that never came, climate shifts that never took hold. Jupiter is behind many of those missing pages. Its gravity erased stories before they could be written. It shaped Earth by preventing tragedy. You can't put it in a textbook. There's no date, no crater, no evidence. Just the quiet continuation of life. And maybe, just maybe, some of the most important things in the universe are the things that never happened, because something large stood in the way. A gentle hand in the dark. Jupiter doesn't have fingers, or eyes, or a mind like ours. But if it did, it might look like a giant hand, stretched quietly across space, not clenched, not reaching, just resting there, calm, still, open, softening whatever drifts too close. That's what its gravity does. It touches without touching, redirects without resisting. It's gentle, but firm. In the darkness between planets, that hand has been catching things for billions of years. Not to hold them, but to move them away from us. And maybe that's why Earth has survived, because someone or something was always keeping watch, even when we didn't know we needed it. Why Earth still spins in peace. As the universe swirls in chaos, stars exploding, galaxies colliding, black holes stretching time itself, Earth still spins, steady, software silent. Our little blue planet orbits like a lullaby, not because the universe is gentle, but because something nearby made it feel that way. Jupiter never stopped the chaos. It just buffered it, redirected it, took the brunt of what we couldn't survive. Because of that, we still have forests, rivers, laughter, time. Earth still spins in peace, because a giant chose to stand between us and everything that might have ended this story far too soon.